testing if it even works. So let me know in the comments if you can see me, if you can hear me. It will be amazing. Okay, let me see here. Hello, Jeanette. Okay, I guess it works. Wow. Okay. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Jeanette. Elizabeth. Awesome. Okay. So this is my very first time streaming, because I'm streaming also to Facebook and to YouTube at the same time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a next level experience. I've never done such things before. Can you also hear some music in the background? The audio is slow, you say? Let me double check. But the music is a bit loud compared to your voice. It is? Oh, okay. That's strange, because in my settings it's the other way around. My mic should be louder. But maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Let's see. Okay, this is my, okay. I don't know why it's, maybe it's picking up the music, which it shouldn't. Yeah, let me see here. Okay, can you hear me better? Okay, better. Okay. So let me know, so you can hear me well and the music is not loud not too loud. So you can still hear both and music is not overpowering my talking. Wow, I used to watch your videos when I was like 9 years old. I'm almost 18. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, it's like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I started YouTube when I was like in my early 20s or something. So it's like 100 years ago. It's okay. Okay. Okay, so you just let me know. So thanks for the patience too, and yeah, figuring this out, because I've tested it before, but you never know how it is. Like, some things can always change. Indy says, you are here. I love your voice. I love your creativity and kindness. Good luck with the new challenges. You are the best. The music is okay now. Thank you. Thanks so much for your support. Okay, so today I wanted to do a live stream. And I was thinking about, okay, what fun things could we do? And I also wanted to, before we start, I wanted to invite you, because some of you may have heard about it when I was sending out emails or over on social. I do a paint to paper challenge. It's happening in almost like roughly in a week. So on February 17th we're starting. And I wanted to also invite you there because we're going to really talk about like how watercolor works and how to create your own watercolor paintings with more confidence and ease. And we go into all the details about like how to control water and paint. And yeah, this was here. So this is basically that the challenge. So we are also going to paint this reference, or like this painting that you can see here. There are multiple versions that I did, so this is one of them. and you can join just for $10. It's a 5-day challenge, and here's the link to the challenge. So makoccino.com/P2P. And this is where every day there's a new lesson, and about like how to control water, how to use your brush properly, how to adjust water and paint control. And then everything that you learn over these 5 days, you then implement it in this painting. So it's literally everything that you discover and practice, you put into this painting at the end. And it will always look different. Like I said, I have like different versions of the same painting, and always looks different, but it uses the same principles, the same techniques, and you can really make it your own. You can change up the composition and the colors and things like that. But I also wanted to paint something today that is slightly similar to the theme, so it won't be the same painting, and so you can get started. Jeanette says, sounds great. I am brand new to watercolor. Yeah, so this is really great. This challenge is great for complete beginners, because really we start from scratch, and also for people who have been painting for a while, but they feel like there's something missing in their knowledge because something doesn't work out, or they don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe they follow tutorials and it's still like it just doesn't work, or maybe it works, but then when they try it themselves on their own with their own reference, it doesn't work anymore. So this challenge really helps you to get started with like what you really focus on, like what do you need to focus on to make to improve your skills much faster, and what it actually takes to create your own watercolor paintings with confidence. So it's not just a challenge where every day you would just follow me and paint whatever I'm painting. It's really about developing the skills to paint something on your own. So it's a start where you can just start and really focus on what really moves the needle in your practice. Because I always say you can practice the same things over and over, but if it's like not the right thing that you're doing, you always develop the kind of like wrong habits, like the bad habits that prevent you from achieving what you want, basically. So so I really hope you'll join us. So it is like I said, in just a few days, and I just want to make sure that everyone is here will also get a chance to join and knows about it, because I haven't not mentioned it, I think, on YouTube before, or not recently, or maybe somewhere in the middle, somewhere hidden in the video. So I wanted to come in and invite you. So this will be the project, and like I said, you also find more information on this page. So the outline, what exactly is happening, what we do every day, how long the videos are, is it live or not live, all the details are there. But if you have any questions, I'm also happy to answer in the live stream. All right, so let me double check again. All right, so like I said, today I wanted to paint something inspired by that theme. It means that I wanted to paint something like Northern Light, but also not, some landscape. So if you're just starting, like maybe, like I said, some of you were saying you're just about to start painting, or you want to maybe want some company as you paint, this is a good time, because I wanted to keep it very like casual and fun, and I brought some music so you can listen a little bit of some tunes, because I can't listen to Beyonce while I'm painting. I'm not in the zone of, it doesn't bring, I mean, if it's something particular I would paint, then maybe, but all right, so let me start. Let me share my desk again, and we can start from scratch, and I'll walk you through what I have here. Okay, so let me grab this over here. Move. So this is the challenge, and I will remove it or make it smaller later if I don't forget. But I'm going to start with my supplies here on the desk, and I have 2 jars of water. I have my watercolor palette, I have my mixing well, I have my paper. I have also some tea, just calms me down and just keeps me grounded, like calm and peaceful. Hey Susie, thanks for joining. Music, I often select music to whatever I'm painting. Now this music is a little bit like all over the place, but it's calm. But whenever I paint, I usually select like a painting that is a little bit more inspired by what I'm painting. So if it's like a forest scene, I would select a forest scene or like a foresty playlist. I don't know if it's like makes sense, but like if you go to Spotify, you can literally find everything. Or if it's an ocean theme, I also look some ocean vibes or like. So yeah, that my music selection depends often on what I'm painting. Sometimes I paint in silence, but music definitely helps me to get into the flow. I don't want to touch anything here, otherwise I unplug something by accident. All right, so I hope you can see everything. The stream's a little delayed to what I'm seeing and to what you're seeing, or like what I'm talking here, you see a little bit later. So there will be a little, a shift in time. But like I said, let's start with, so if you're just getting started, it's a good time to prepare your supplies. If you're just joining, maybe you just saw the notification or maybe you just stumbled upon my stream. So basically I have always like my liquidy supplies on my right side. So I have my 2 jars of water, clean water. So a jar with water is only for clean water and one for rinsing my brushes. So I don't split between like cool and warm colors where I'm brushing, because I see some artists do that and I'm like, this is a little too complicated for me. I don't want to think which color goes where. So clean water and then the water for just rinsing the brush. And then I'm a watercolor palette. I also have a video about how I set it up. So if you're wondering what colors do I have and how do I selected them and why did I put them in this order, I have everything explained in that video on this channel, on my YouTube channel. And also I'm mixing now. This is a porcelain palette mixing now, because I know you can use plastic ones and then just hack them a little bit so they don't create beads, but I like to use the mixing well. It is like already kind of like easy to use. Like it's almost like using a plate. You can also use a plate, but this has like these wells that are deeper, so you can mix a lot of paint in it as well. How do you choose good paper? I have a guide on like how about differences of watercolor paper, but I choose usually I look for cotton paper. I know this is so scary for a lot of beginners, because it's like, well, I'm just a beginner. I'm scared. Like, what if I'm not good enough? What I'm not ready yet? What I don't want to waste it. I'm not good enough to use it. But with watercolor paper, like paper is like the foundation. That you don't need to use Arch watercolor paper. It can also be Sanders. It can be I think like Baohong, some use that as well, cotton paper. So you do want to look for cotton paper, and then also they have different qualities. Cotton paper is not just like this is the best of the best every time. There's also different qualities in the cotton paper. So if you see that there's a set with like 50 sheets of cotton paper for $10, then you know probably the quality isn't that great, because usually like you can see this is like 20. Or like even like, I mean, the block is a little more expensive, but if it's like, a pad is cheaper, and then you get like 12 or 20 or 8, like something, I don't exactly know how many, and it's like for $20, I think. So rather have like quality over quantity. So especially with watercolor paper, you don't need, you don't need a lot of stuff. Like this is over the years that I decided, okay, these are the colors that I'm using, but you can also just start with a starter set. I'll also use a tape because one thing when you're just starting and you're like afraid to use all the paper, or maybe you're afraid of the size of the paper, you can always like divide it into smaller sections. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm using just tape. This is artist tape, or you can use tape for sensitive surfaces. Basically, it's can pull wallpaper. And this is kind of like a no-name from Amazon, and they always come in bulk, and I get them. But again, this is also if you have paper that's very brittle, you will have to use like washi tape or something, because washi tape is more sensitive. If you use very good paper that's durable, and it won't like rip when you remove the tape. And I'll divide it in half. So it's a very, so I didn't share what we're painting. So it should be like a process. So you'll see at the end what we have. So here somewhere, and I also tape down here if no, I don't have to, because I just like how then I get this white frame. And also the angle, I often have troubles making it horizontal here. So roughly the half. Doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe I can make this slightly smaller so it's not super in the way here. And this. Put upwards here, beautifully. Adjusting. It looks like a playlist. The Painted Paper Challenge playlist. And I also have a guide about supplies. Like if you want to learn more about like how do I know about if it's good paper, if it's bad paper, if it's good paint and whatnot. So I will add the link later to the description box or like below this video, because I know watercolor supplies is a big topic, and it's a very controversial topic, because everyone, if you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers, and everyone has their own preferences, so it's hard to like say, okay, this is the best of the best, because some people don't like this type of paper, others love it. So it's really about testing yourself, knowing how to even choose the supplies for yourself. Like, I feel like this is already like such a big thing just to know, because I remember how when I went to the shop like years ago when I just started with watercolor, and I asked, okay, I need watercolors, and then the person in the shop was like, okay, here, this is watercolor set, these are the brushes good for beginners. And then only late, like I painted and I was like, okay, I guess this is how it is. And then later I learned that, I realized that this brush that I was using the whole time, or these brushes, they were like complete, like actually very bad, because I realized how, because once you now learn how better something can be, you can't really go back. So once I realized where there are so much great brushes, such quality, the brushes that can hold so much water, and then compared to these beginner brushes that I got from the shop, I was like painting with Barbie hair. This was like terrible. So actually having the confidence to go into the shop and knowing, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and I know exactly why I'm looking for that, and no matter what the people say in the shop, you will know, like, no, I know you might like think it's good, but I know that this is bad quality or something like that. So it empowers you to make your own decisions confidently, because you know what you're doing, how you decide, and why you decide. That's why I'm always teaching the why behind the techniques, the supplies, because I want you to be confident in yourself and your skills to do that on your own. So you don't always have to rely on someone to tell you, like, is this correct? Should I do this or that? What should I use? But you actually know how to identify it yourself and what to do yourself. Barbie hair, yeah, Barbie hair. It's how it feels, because it doesn't hold any water, nothing. All right, so let me sip on my tea. So like I said, I wanted to create something that is inspired by this project that we're going to paint in the Paint to Paper challenge. And this is where I will also explain more, like really going in more in depth about different things that we're going to do, because I don't want this video to be three hours long, but I also want you to like, it will be so much information, it will be hard to receive everything at once. So during this Paint to Paper challenge, you'll get like every day like 20 to 30 minute video where you'll have to like you get the opportunity to make this time to just focus on one element at a time. So brush techniques, how to control water and paint and things like that, because it will be too much in one go. So that's why it's in the challenge, it's divided into days, so you can really just focus on one thing at a time. All right, so first things first, I will start with water, because I want to work on my background first. The beauty of watercolor is that you work with water, and I know when you come from like acrylics or oils, it's a completely like learning curve, because you're so develop such habits of when you use oils or acrylics or even drawing, that you then automatically kind of apply it to watercolors. And watercolor is a completely different medium, so you don't want it to use it the same way as acrylics or oils or something like that. And if you do, like if you use these techniques and these approaches like that you use for oils or acrylic, it will feel like watercolor is like the hardest medium on the planet. But watercolor isn't as difficult as you think it is. It's only requires you to know how watercolor works, because then like with supplies, you know exactly what to look for, what to not look for, like not to buy, what not to do, what to do. And this goes with the watercolor painting as well. Once you know how watercolor works, how to paint, work with the paint and not against it, everything will just be so much easier. It's because oftentimes what happens if you don't know how watercolor works, like really to like the core, like the principles, it feels like you're just randomly doing things and hope for the best. And of course you don't feel very confident in yourself if you don't like know halfway like what's going on and what you're doing and what to expect. But once you know, you know like how to adjust things, how to avoid things. So for this case, I want to paint the background into a more like wet into wet approach, meaning I want to let the paint do its magic. And for that we need water. So I will use my flat brush. It's a relatively large brush. That is, I choose my brushes depending on the size of what I'm painting. So if your brush is like this small, like it makes no sense to apply water with that. You can see how tiny the brush is and how much space I have to cover here. That's why I'm using a larger brush. It can also be half the size of that. It's just faster. I also apply, my paper for now is flat, so I used to tape down my paper onto like the table when I just started out, but then I discovered the beauty of like really moving the paper around, because once you understand how watercolor works, you actually want to move the paper around. You want to lead the water and the paint in certain directions, and if it's taped to your table, like you can't really do that. So you're kind of like tied to this position of the flat paper, and you can like move it and use gravity to your advantage. So I'm applying it here. And also if things dry very fast where you live, I always say to my students, like, apply more water, let it absorb. Don't rush this process. I know we'll always like want to start painting, but like now, like I'm heating, it's cold and it's dry. I don't have a humidifier here and I'm talking, so if things might start drying very fast because I'm multitasking here. But yeah, give your paper a little bit more time to absorb water. So double checking here, still working, okay. Also again, I apply some more water. So you can see how shiny my paper is. And one thing we don't want to pull, like you can see there's like water already dripping over. And to prevent that from happening, I always like use a paper towel. I can use paper towel, tissue papers, like a towel in general. And you can always remove excess moisture. I also have paper here on this right side, so I have one on the table where I just can like put my arm to this spot like next to my palette, and I also have one in my other hand, so I can like use it more precisely. So in this case, I removed some excess moisture from my brush, and I can just go over this area and then just absorb some more water also here, because we don't want to create a pool of water. We want to create just a nice even surface. Otherwise, if there's too much water, it's like the pigment will be like overwhelmed by all this. Okay, and while this paper absorbs some of the moisture, we can prepare the paint. I'm using, for mixing, I'll be using, I think, because this is a larger piece. Again, you can also just paint like a quarter of this paper, depending on what you're using. I'm going to use this Mix B brush by Da Vinci because I want to create a lot of paint, and I want to use a brush that can, hold a lot more water, and also I can just reuse it exactly as the same brush. If I'm preparing like like little paint, like just for a small section, I usually use a smaller brush, like a synthetic brush, because if it's a good like brush, it holds a lot of water and paint, it will just soak up everything, and then you don't have anything in your mixing well. So for smaller puddles, I use a smaller brush, but for larger areas and puddles that I want to create, I can use a larger brush, because even if it soaks up a lot of paint and water, I still will use that, and I still have more in my mixing palette. Krista says, I can't watch right now, but I can't wait to watch later. I love your tutorials so much. They really helped me fall in love with watercolor a few years ago. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, once you understand watercolor painting and learn the techniques and the skills, it's like you just get obsessed. Like and you have supplies to support your painting journey, and it's like no going back. It's like I have students who painted like acrylics, and oils, or any like other things besides watercolor, and then once they got obsessed with watercolor, and then tried acrylic again, and then they're like, no, this is you can't go back. Like it's once you're hooked on watercolor, it's hard to get back to anything else. Okay, so for watercolor, for the colors here, I'll start with a little bit of water in my palette here, my mixing well, so I have already some water to work with. And then what I will use a very limited color palette, because you don't need like 5 million colors. You can use one color, 2 colors, and automatically the painting will look more cohesive, interesting, and harmonious. So for that, I'll be using 2 colors, and I forgot some swatching paper, so I'll use the back side of this paper. I have also a process video on the channel, on the YouTube channel, where you can see how I painted that. So, but I will use the back side for swatching. So the main color would be like a blue color. So this is my cerulean blue hue. So this is considered a cool blue color. So it's not ultramarine, it's not anything that is like more warmish. So if I can show you my ultramarine is this here. You can see the difference. So this is more like blue sky, this could also be blue sky, but this looks more like it's about to rain soon. So that's why I have this issue with blue colors, is that for my sky it needs to be the perfect blue. So these both wouldn't be perfect blues for my sky, because either it's too tropical and the other is too gloomy. So sometimes I mix them together and I get like some middle ground. But for our painting, we don't need to be like so precise. So I'll be using my cool blue colors, which is cerulean blue hue. And then I'll be using a little bit of green as well. So my green is a phthalo green. And you can see that they are super, super vibrant. And also on the screen it's probably a little bit different because it's like the camera might pick it up differently. But the beauty of these colors is that so always like encourage everyone to really learn color mixing, because then you know exactly why you choose these colors and what to expect from them. And these colors, they create a beautiful mix. So you get either a bluish green or a greenish blue, depending on how you mix them together. So the more blue you have, the more bluish you get the color. The more green it is, the more greener the color will be. But it's a beautiful color. So if you use anything like olive green or something like that, you will notice how you will get also nice effects, but maybe not the color that you want, because they're just this is the wrong color. You can see it's a little bit more darker, and also more slightly more muted, more forest green type of color. You can see this is more tropical. See, this is more like forest greenish, or like just like more natural green. This is more neon type of green. So I'll be using that, and I'll start I think with like a bluish green mix. So I'll start with, or maybe what we can do is actually maybe we can paint a Northern Light version. Why not? I just reapply a little bit more water, just so it's probably dry by now. And I'll add a little bit of my blue here, and also a little bit of green. So my two colors that I just showed you. And I want to create a lot because it's a larger area, and I don't want to run out of halfway. Maybe this is also a little bit too much water, but we will see. Something like that, maybe more green. And again, like how to adjust like the paint to water ratio and stuff like that, how to make the colors more saturated and dark compared to a more watery and pale color. This is what we go into detail in the challenge. So for now, just like if you paint along, just paint along and don't worry about anything. Just like you know that in the challenge we cover it in detail. So I think this beautiful colors looks almost like could be an ocean scene already. And you can see the more blue I have, the more bluish that mix is, the more green I have, the more greenish it is. So for I think if we turn it into a Northern Light project, what we can do is we can start, I clean my brush also just so I can have a clean slate. We can start with the greens. So this is the green color. So I'm add a little bit more water here so it's not too pasty. And maybe a little bit of this blue here, just a little bit more bluish than green. And then we could, like, depending on the movement, we can decide how we want to make. So maybe like here, this could be our blue, like greenish color for the Northern Light. And I don't have a finished project that I'm like copying right now. It's just like I have like random like Northern Light projects and references, so I'm just kind of improvising now. But this is just for the background. So I have my green, so light green, and again, watercolor, when you paint wet into wet, everything will look pale. So if you feel like, oh, this is too dark now, just wait how it dries. It will be super pale in the end. Like that. And maybe then from here, this I'm gonna go add here. I think I actually mixed too much paint, but that's okay. But it better have too much than too little. I'm just blending this together, and you can see how even if they mix together, you don't get any muddiness, nothing. It just gets beautiful mixes. Maybe more green here. My camera has troubles picking up all these blue and greens, I think. Something like that. So this is kind of like the base for now. And then we want to make it slightly darker because this is like, it looks too even. You can see how, even though you might have different colors here and there, it looks too even. So what we can do is we can just grab this color we already have, because I have a lot of water here, so this is too much actually. I'll add more blue to it, more green. And then I'm going in and kind of like build depth here a little more. And also now I think it's a good idea to use gravity a little bit, because I put some tape underneath my paper, so it's slightly tilted. Then here we can break apart like the light, so we can decide where we want to have it more light, more dark, or if you want to keep it very simple, you can also just like create in a circle, just or like randomly. You don't even like worry about precision or anything like that. Yeah, this is on screen, it looks more blue than it's actually more greenish. How are the watercolors called? Why is it so delayed here? This is like, I'm checking right now on here, and it looks like I'm so far behind on the screen. It's very strange. Let me double check on YouTube. Just see how it looks on your end, because I see it through my streaming program. Okay, this is okay. My program is kind of delayed. I don't know why, but okay. Strange. Oh well. So let's go back to what we're painting here. And the other cool thing is what you can do is if you feel like you made it maybe too dark, or you want to tweak something, what you can always do is you can always clean your brush, remove excess moisture, and then kind of like decide like where you want to make it slightly lighter. My guess would be that if you are painting along, you can totally tell the difference between all the colors on your own painting and easily follow along with what you're explaining. Yeah, like you don't have to paint like whatever, like you can use your colors, you can choose any color that you like. And it's also like like I said, I don't have like a project that I'm copying. I'm just kind of like, have a general idea where I'm going, but I also want to like let the watercolor like tell me how it wants to look. Like if I see a pattern that I want to tweak, or maybe I feel like, okay, this is a little too something, I can tweak. So because this is like beauty, if you have like good paper, then you can really take your time and also adjust a little bit more. It doesn't fall apart like underneath your brush. And the watercolors, these are like schminke mostly, and some are what was it, Rembrandt, but mostly it's schminke. Daniel Smith I have, I think, one is Daniel Smith. I'm not sure. So I'm just kind of adding and I know this will still look a little too. I'm adding a little bit more green also, I think. Or I don't know, we'll see. You could use a little bit more green. A little bit, maybe some darker paints here. Even though I don't paint with watercolor that often, it really is what really taught me color theory and how to mix colors. Yeah, I mean, like color theory is like similar across different medium, but or media. I don't know. It's like to like we can use this word in many ways, but with watercolor you don't really use white. Like, I mean, you can still use white. I'm not against it. I still use white opaque white opaque paint, gouache in particular, but it's not that you use it to, you know, just to make it dark, lighter. You use water to make your colors lighter. So and then from there, I think this is, and you don't really, I don't use, or like I personally don't use black when I mix colors. I use it more like I use dark blues and things like that. So here I'm just making this darker here on these sides. I don't want to like if I see that the paint starts being less shiny, then this is the sign to stop, because otherwise I'll get blooms and I don't want that. And also you never know like how it will turn out. Like it might look like a hot mess when you paint, but you need to finish the painting and then you can decide, okay, I think this could have made it a little bit darker or this lighter, or I could have changed that a little bit, or I need to make sure next time I focus on that. Because if you at some point in your painting you'll realize, I don't know, like this, should I, you probably catch yourself sometimes and we're like, oh, maybe I should restart, maybe I should like no, this is a sign, finish it, because now you can treat it as like, okay, this is just an experiment, it looks weird now, so a good opportunity to test out ideas that I had without like being attached to the outcome too much, and then you'll have a better, like more fun painting also, and also then we'll be surprised how it looks in the end, because oftentimes if you abandon the painting too early, you're judging it too early. Like you can't judge your painting in the very early stages. It's like, it's like a random thought I just had. Like it's like when you do makeup, for example, and some people do like full-on makeup, like heavy coverage of their face with like foundation and whatnot. And if you in this stage will be like, oh my gosh, I look like a ghost, and be like, okay, I think it will be awful, and you just like abandon it, like, and wash everything off, like you missed, like you just didn't finish, like you need to fill in your eyebrows back, paint your eyelash, eyelash, that's the word, maybe some contouring or whatever. So it's the same with watercolors, it's like early stage, you can't judge it, it's still work in progress. But I like kind of like the stripiness, some lighter areas, darker areas, just the color. Like it doesn't have to be like something complicated or anything like that. I also I don't know exactly, like it looks more bluish on screen, like I said. I wish I could make it more greener. I adjusted the colors a little bit. Maybe I can do it. Don't know if it makes a difference this way, maybe. But makes the desk also very green. Weird. Oh well. Can imagine some more greener version. Handmade card says, I love the look of watercolor. I just can never get mine to look good. When I'm trying to add shadows, the whole image turns out too dark. Yeah, that's why it's important to take the time to practice how to adjust paint to water so you get the results you want. But also you also want to swatch the colors first. Like in this case, I painted went into wet. I could have picked it up and mixed more, added more darker paint here and there. But you always want to swatch and like see if it's like, it looks too light, I need to add more pigment. If it's too dark, you know, okay, I need to add more water. And also like you realize like watercolor looks lighter when it's dry. So you want to make sure you keep an eye on that as well. Okay, yeah, it's very strange. My program shows it's so delayed, but be rolling with it. Okay, so before I can start or continue painting, because now you can, when you paint along, you might also see that some areas are already look matte, some are maybe more shiny. This means that if it's matte, like it's already it's too dangerous to work with, because it's already like the paint is like, leave me alone, I am ready to just dry and stay in place. You don't need to mess around with me anymore. So that's why we need to just be careful not to drop any water here. And also I'll use a hair dryer to make sure it's 100% dry. And I'll mute myself and I hope it will work. And I'll use a hair dryer. So if you don't have a hair dryer, you can just let it dry naturally. I would never use a hair dryer like after freshly applied paint and I see lots of water and stuff like that, because it just, if you use hair dryer, it will just push the pigments straight into the paper, and I don't want that. I want it to be more shiny, because otherwise it will just look so pale, and I don't want that. If you let it dry more naturally and then you use a little bit of a hair dryer to just finish up the rest, then it will be much better. Otherwise you just like, again, you'll push the pigments into the fiber and then it should be like pale. We don't want that. So I use a hair dryer on like a medium heat, or like coolish, like not super hot. Also not on a super powerful setting. And I'll also use it slightly more further away from the paper. Okay. Thank you. You explained everything so well. Thanks. Hey Susie, welcome to our to the YouTube channel. Gwen says, you talked about the importance of using good watercolor paper. Do you have any recommendations, please? Yes, so I have a guide about like watercolor supplies, and I will link it later on my description box, but also I usually link it in my YouTube video. So in the recent one, I definitely did that. But you can also go to, I think, makoccino.com/supplies. And you get the link. This is the link to the guide. But generally, my personal, because like I said earlier, the watercolor paper or watercolor supplies is such a personal. Everyone has their own preferences, and you can ask 10 different people. You get different answers. So, my personal preferences is Arch watercolor paper for like when I want to have more vibrancy. If I want to have more durable paper for like paint to wet into wet, or masking fluid, or scratching, all sorts of different watercolor techniques. And where I know I won't get disappointed. For more softer looks and less textured paper, I go for Sanders Waterford. Because Sanders Waterford is slightly more, the texture is a little less, it's softer texture. If not, it's cold pressed. I use cold pressed, and it's slightly more subtle. Like there's still texture, but it's not as heavily textured, I would say. And but the colors tend to look lighter when they dry. So this is where you then want to make sure that you use more pigment in your mixes. So that's why I'm like always say, don't switch around too much. Be very select your supplies and really stick with them like for a while, so you get the feel for them. You understand, okay, this paper requires me to use more pigment, or I need to remind myself I need to use more pigment, and that when you do this, it behaves this way. Because if you just randomly like switch and you don't get the feel for that, you'll never know. You've almost like, this is too much pigment now, this is too little pigment now, this is like, why is it so pale, why is it like this? So really sticking to that, because over time you will notice, okay, this paper is just really great for all of these techniques, the other one is more brittle, I'm not going to use like masking fluid on that. So knowing your supplies, you can only get them to know when you spend more time with them. So it's like stick to the go-to supplies that you selected, and you can always change. No one says you need to stick with them forever. You can always like test something else later and see how you feel about it. If you discover, okay, I really like this paper, then use that. Sometimes I use only Sanders, sometimes I only use Arch watercolor paper, but I know exactly look in my head, okay, this is still how to adjust my painting process, or like my habits, I guess, to use more pigment. Or like I know like I want to be more smooth a result, and I'm using Sanders, because Arch watercolor paper is more textured. All right, so I already dried everything, but what I also want to always do is test your paper with the side of the hand. So because oftentimes what happens is that you think, oh, it's dry, it looks dry, like nothing's shiny, and then you start painting and all of a sudden you get blotchy, weird results. So you always want to test the paper with your hands here. And if you feel any coolness, so if you feel like coolness, it means there's still water, like a moisture. It's like you probably notice that in other like fabric or like hair, like everything, if there's still moisture, it feels different to when it's dry. So I feel some coolness, so this means I need to use a little bit more of my hair dryer. So I mute myself again. Donna says, thank you for the hair dry tips. Knowing the lower heat temperature is better is helpful. Yeah, and also like I think the most important part is from like what I have found for my process is that if don't use it right immediately after like after you apply the paint, when it's like freshly applied, it's shiny and things like that, and with full speed, like full power, because it will push the pigments into the paper, and then the colors will look very pale. So like even if you use hot, you can probably use a hot dryer, like a hot setting, but as long as it's like further away, not like close to the paper where it's just like really pushing the pigments right into the paper, you should be fine. Like just like wait a little bit for the pigments to settle a little bit, and then use the hair dryer to finish up the drying process, not to just immediately force it to dry. So this is where you see a big difference already. Just give the paper some time to settle with the pigments, start drying, and then when the shine kind of disappears a little bit, this is where you can start drying properly. Is Gwendolyn the same person? Or are they two different people? Okay, so next. So I'm not quite sure exactly what you're seeing and which stage we're at, because YouTube shows me something else, my streaming software shows me different things. So I'm just going with the flow here. Okay. Next step would be, let's add something more interesting. So we're not just painting like this sky type of texture. Let's add something more interesting, get something to it. So you can also like be do your own thing. You can decide what you want to do. I think I'll just create a forest scene, just so I can show you a little bit of like the beauty of watercolor even more, like how could you add depth to your painting as well. And again, this is something we also cover in the challenge more deeply, and where we can really just focus on the practicing those skills. And I will reuse the colors that I have here already, and I switch to a smaller brush. This is maybe even smaller than that. Maybe this one. This is number 6 by Silver Velvet brush. What is this here? So we can use that. So I want to layer now. Well, actually, let's add some water here. I feel like this is maybe too much, too little. So I'll add some water here to my well again to dilute the water. And this is also, by the way, in my watercolor membership, we do live painting parties every month. And this is where this session is like almost like 3 hours often, because I explain like every little detail, so everyone can follow, and we don't rush the process or anything like that. So I will paint different projects every month. Okay, so I'll start adding some trees, but I think just to kind of like get an idea where things are, I'll add some grass field here, or like some mountain, or something like a ground. And yeah, like we can start from dark, we can start from light, but I think easier to start from light, and then we can shape everything else. So I'll use my diluted solution of paint here and kind of like start maybe here, just to see how it looks. And this will be like my tree, maybe some like smaller ones like there further in the distance. By the way, someone here from my membership here would be awesome, because I said that shared in the membership group that I'm joining, but like maybe it was so last minute that no one saw it. I don't know. But if you're here, I would love to hear like this. Let me know if you're a tealy. Can also add some branches here. Also, one thing about trees, trees are the branches is the one trick is that, you know, like when the tree trunk grows, right? Like you have the the width of the tree trunk, and then it separates itself into branches, right? So the cool thing about it is that if you take the tree, for example, and push all the branches together, the width should be still similar to the whole tree trunk, meaning that if you paint a tree and your branches are like thick and lush and like there's too thick, then it means that when you put them together, the top part of the tree will be larger than the bottom part. So technically, the branches are just like split sections of the tree trunk. So the tree trunk, like I said, like if you have the tree trunk and it separates itself into branches, if you put them all together, it should be still the same width as the tree trunk. So similarly, so that's why you don't want when you paint your branches, make sure that you paint them slightly thinner. So if you start with one, make it thinner, then the next one is also thinner as it branches out from this previous branch. So make sure that you pay attention to that. Otherwise you get like a tree trunk and then the branches are thicker than the whole tree. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just like a general rule of thumb, I guess. Also, if you paint trees, make sure you put them like, you play around with how you place them, because often what happens is that they are like placed like a fence. You don't want your trees to look like they're like a fence. So meaning space out your trees slightly more like further apart, some are more closer to each other, so it's not like this perfectly spaced out row of trees. Yeah, and I hope a lot of you are joining the challenge, because like I think like from all the years I've been doing the challenge, this was such a game changer for so many. So I'm constantly doing it because I know that there are so many people who are interested in watercolor, who maybe started watercolor painting or thinking about starting, and they're still like feel maybe overwhelmed, or they feel like they don't make any progress, or they wish to create their own paintings and stop following tutorials for like successful results. And that's why I'm with the challenge, I really break things up, like down into what you actually need to focus on and see results. And we're going to paint a whole painting also together, but it's a pre-recorded lesson, so you can fit it into your day. So when I'm talking live, like it's like I'm explaining everything and then it's like 3 hours gone by so quickly. It's my first time here. Where can I find the info on the challenge? So this is the link on the screen. This makoccino.com/p2p, or it's also linked in the description box of the live stream. So here's the link. Let me grab that here. You can find information there on the page. I don't know if it's like I can do that on Facebook, but like let me see. I'm looking forward to the challenge, says Donna. Yeah, me too. Like I've been doing this challenge since like 2020, and I changed it a little bit and adjusted it and looked like what's really helpful and like what people enjoy the most. So and because I know there are so many, because I just recently started interviewing some of my students in my watercolor membership, And it's just like so fun to see how they started, like where they were in the beginning and where they are now. Like, and some were saying that painting practice was not existent, and she said she considered herself a dabbling watercolor hobbyist, and now she's a watercolor artist. Now she's proud of what she's painting and like calling herself an artist. Because I know sometimes, like, you know, it's like everyone wants to, like, it's like everyone wants to be happy and do what they want, but at the same time everyone makes each other's lives so difficult. And like, for example, artists, like if you want to call yourself an artist, there's someone who will be like, what, like you need to have 5 million degrees to be able to call yourself that, like how can you do that? But at the same time, like, it doesn't take anything from your being an artist, so why are you coming after this person? So just like, you know, we can owning our own identity. We can call ourselves an artist and be proud of that. And one thing, once you understand that, yeah, I can learn the skill, it's just another skill that I can learn, then you can become an artist and be an artist. And it's like with singing, like if you sing, you're a singer. Like you don't need to be on stages every single week to be a legit. You can also just sing for yourself. But here it's like with watercolor, it's just like so beautiful, because I think it's with painting in general, it's such a subject where it's such a personal thing. So it's like you don't want to be too it's like more vulnerable, I guess, because people could judge you and you don't want that. So it's like rather I want to avoid that. So for now I'm just adding those trees, and I'm just like I'm not following like I said, any strict plan, because I know one part of the painting process for me is always like planning and preparing, and then I paint. But if it's more like it's more like when it's a more complicated painting or something new, or just like something where this is what I want to paint, then I need to plan. But this is more like, okay, just let's just paint like whatever happens on the paper. I don't need to plan ahead every single thing. I planned some colors that I use. I planned maybe start wet on wet or wet on dry, but this is all. And also check back on your trees if you paint along, or in general, like whenever you paint, go back and see, okay, am I again painting what's the word, am I painting a fence again? Because sometimes it's subconsciously, like sometimes we just like we try hard to not paint a fence, and then in the end we kind of our body is just naturally trying to paint it. So you might need to go back and like break apart some patterns so it's not super even. I painted the Starry Night using Watercolor. Yeah, the Starry Night seems like a very popular project. You also might notice that some layers well, some trees that I added here have a harder edge, and others don't have any hard edge, and it's often because there was just too much water when I applied it. So when you paint more watery paints, yeah, your paint is more watery. It's just like it's the danger is that you apply too much water and then you get these hard edges, because these are the areas that are dry faster. And I might have also painted 2 layers on that, and maybe there was just too much going on. You can also, of course, keep it open. Like, you don't need to close everything. So maybe if you paint it again, you could decide, okay, maybe I keep this area more open and the trees are are somewhere else. Or like, yeah, you have more like an entrance into the forest, so it's not like everything's closed here. Okay, and then I'll just add more pigment to my mix that I already have here. So I'm adding a little bit more blue and green. Also checking the color before I apply it to see if it's be a little bit more pigment. So still more like a greenish bluish color. And you can see how transparent it is. So if you have, for example, a simpler background, so not like stripes or different colors, you won't see like it won't look like ghost trees basically. So this technique works, I guess, quote unquote better if you don't have too much going on in the background. So it's like maybe like an even wash, and then because then these transitions are not showing through the trees. Carissa says, I like the vibrant blue here. Yeah, it's a little bit more greenish than it looks, but yeah, it's if you have good paper and good colors, they will be vibrant, because some paper, it just looks very, very pale. Okay, let me add some darker tree. Maybe I can cover this up because it's a little too, I don't want this outline to be here, because maybe if I add a darker tree here, can cover it up a little bit. And still, like, watercolor is still transparent, so you can get like layers showing through in the end. Something like that. And you covered up the tree. And maybe, so again, with watercolors, there's so many ways that you can fix things. So this is one of the things also, I feel like I'm like the ambassador of watercolor. I'm like going around and just like want everyone to know that watercolor is not the hardest or the most challenging watercolor like a medium. It's not, like I said, that's why I'm doing the paint to paper challenge, just to show that it's just a matter of understanding how watercolor works, and then it's just more effortless to do anything you want. You can paint. You also might notice like the videos I shared like years ago, or like the paintings that I did years ago, and how I'm painting now. I mean, apart from this project, it's a more simplified version, but like more complicated projects or more difficult projects, I didn't spend like 20 years practicing every day. Like my transition, my improvement was like very fast, and I'm not painting every day. Like I know, like it's like it's not everyone, like lots of people say you should paint every day, but I don't paint every day, and I can still make a lot of progress because I focus on the most important things. And if I just like have more time, I paint more. If I have less time, I paint less. But sometimes I also have to make the time to practice and learn. But I don't need to 24/7 paint to see progress. Because if you know, for example, how to adjust paint, how to paint what into what's the right timing and things like that, and how to make sure this and that fits, then you don't you don't need to spend years improving, because you focus on the right things. Handmade card says, I feel like the paper is the most important thing. Yeah, the watercolor paper is like, yeah, the foundation. No matter if your colors are expensive and super high quality, if the paper is like bad, then it's like they can't really shine. What can I put? Like, maybe I can also introduce some more crooked trees. I don't know, mine they're super perfect here, relatively. I thought, yeah, like, I feel like with what I'm like, as I was saying, like, I feel like I'm ambassador of watercolor, because it just feels like with, I mean, I know with acrylics and oils you can be super precise and take ages. I mean, with oils you can maybe paint longer, and you can have more control over exactly where the paint stays and how it dries and whatnot. But with watercolors you can't achieve such cool things with other medium. Like with watercolor you can use water, you can use salt, you can create blooms, you can texture, softness, magic, like really just so many cool things. Like here, like with the tree, like I said earlier, if you have a tree trunk and then goes up and you have, like, for example, branches, make sure that when they split, that the branch that goes up is not like as wide as the tree trunk. So make sure that that they're slightly thinner, like slightly more narrow. Because in my case earlier, this part on top was slightly wider than the bottom part, so I needed to kind of like make it slightly wider. Because the tree trunk, like I said earlier, the branches are just like almost like split sections of the tree trunk. Lara says, it's so nice to have you with us again. Oh, thank you. Yeah, like I really was focusing on my watercolor membership, because this is where I could like really paint with my students, see them, interact, help, because on YouTube often it feels like it's like you post a video and thousands can watch, but you don't have any connection, as in like compared to when you actually like in a Zoom class and you see people and you talk to them and see what they're painting. So it's more connections, more engaging than oftentimes when you post on YouTube. So I kind of like really enjoyed doing my online classes because the connection was missing for me. So if you want to learn more in depth with me and have painting lessons with me, then my watercolor membership is the place to be, because the community is also amazing. Like, it's such a beautiful place because everyone's so supportive. There's no competition. Everyone wants just the best for everyone. Like, everyone takes the time to like comment and give feedback if you're asked for feedback. So like everyone's success, your success is everyone's success. So it's like, it's no competition. It's like everyone. It's not also not to hear, look at my amazing project, but actually like, this is my process. Can you give me some feedback? And everyone's sharing their art and just so supportive. So it's like, this is something that's so important, to have community. Maybe here I could add some like that. I don't know. Doesn't have to be always branches going up, but this looks a little weird. Maybe I can. Enrique says, I like the background colors you added and the details that you put in as you paint each layer makes it more interesting to watch up close and personal. Yeah, like, I mean, this painting is like literally just wet into wet and wet and dry and just 2 colors and water. And you can make it as complicated and as simple as you want. You can add figures, silhouettes of different things. So it's really, we can be creative. Because it's like, yeah, I can take the time and just like enjoy the process. Mary says, I joined Teal after doing the challenge last year. Thanks for all the valuable lessons. Hey, Mary. Yeah, I think Teal, I feel like this is such a, yeah, it's just such a hub of joy. So it's like, some people just like, even if they don't have much time, for example, they just go into the group and just to see what everyone's painting, just feel inspired and just like, yeah, just see beautiful art and what everyone is doing. And you sometimes do challenges. So yeah, it's not just about like copying what I'm doing or anything like that. It's really about learning how you can create your own watercolor paintings and use the knowledge that you have and that you are learning, not just copying and painting like me. Because I don't want to teach, like, my goal is not to teach everyone to paint like me. I'm more focused on giving you techniques and tools so you can use it in your own way and make it your own, unique, but you know, like, have ideas or like a technique, a useful technique or skill that you can implement in your own painting. So it's not like, how do we learn this style exactly as she's painting? I'm also super inspired by everyone else's paintings in the group because, like, you get ideas about all colors or like how you could approach it. Lara says, what gorgeous shade of blue is that? It's glowing. This is just phthalo green and cerulean blue hue. So cool blue and cool green. Okay, just checking the other. My streaming platform is kind of fell asleep or something. Also, we could add a little bit more something in between. I feel like this is something more transparent than that because I went maybe too dark right away. So I'm adding a little bit more water to my mix so I have a little bit of variety because you can see there's some, we have very light and then very dark, but nothing like in between. Always check if you're again painting fence or not. Like no matter what you're painting, our tendency is always like evenly spaced out everything. So really make sure when you paint, come back to after some time, not like a few days, but like as you paint, come back to certain areas and check, is the spacing too even? Do you need to break apart the pattern? Can you make it more messy, not so rigid, like everything's evenly spaced out? And you'll notice a huge difference. It will already look so much better just by making sure that it's more uneven. And also you have a background color here as well, so meaning that when you layer, you already have a color that makes the second layer darker. So it's also where you also want to kind of keep an eye on. You don't want to start too light or not too dark. You want to test and see. So with the discussion we had earlier, if it's too dark, then you need to you need to test, because you have already a background color. This already makes the second layer darker, so I need to adjust as well. What else could I think that's already kind of enough. I don't want to add any like trees or anything like that, as in like trees, what's it called, like leaves. But what I want to do is still, I want to add like ground. Then we can already keep that like the way it is, but I would still want to kind of like ground it a little bit into something. So I will use what I have here already in my mixing well, and then I'm going to use my other brush, so maybe actually the round, my mix B brush, and I just use a lot of the same pigments, so my blue and my green, so cool blue and cool green, phthalo green and ceylon blue hue. It's very, very pigmented. And be more blue. And what I'll do is I will add it here, so you can decide how, like, where you can also just leave it the way it is. And Rick says it is a gradient in the background, the one diagonal up from the left and the one diagonal down from the this is just, it's not really you could call it a gradient, but it's like more like a wet into wet northern light type of thing. Susie says, I think my problem, one of many, is I need to learn not to overwork. Yeah, like this is also a practice where you then, as you paint, you'll get to learn about your patterns, almost like, oh, this is I'm like, catch yourself almost in where you said, oh, maybe I should like add this, or maybe I can, oh, well, let me tweak that. Like so you develop an awareness and can catch yourself faster when you go into that route where you like start overworking, because as you paint, you overwork. Like, for example, you multiple times in this painting and that painting, you kind of get a feel for, okay, this is the point where I started overworking, and you might kind of like track back to a thought pattern that you had, or what prompted you to do that, like adding this detail and that detail. So as you then paint, you can then catch yourself quicker. Oh, wait a second, I feel like I want to add something, but I'm not 100% sure. This is okay. I should probably leave that and walk away. So yeah, like when we do like live classes in my watercolor membership, we yeah, I will always walk myself, well, like I walk everyone through my thought process, and often you can hear like, okay, this is, I think I could like and I think it's better to leave it the way it is. Like, we'll rather come back to it later and see if I need to do something else, or because if you look at it for too long or paint for too long, you can't really judge your painting anymore, because it's very clouded and you just maybe tired, or maybe just so focused on this one detail that you don't see the big picture. So walking away is always the safest step to do when you're unsure. If it's, you can always ask before you apply something, is that will it add something to your painting, or will it be too much? Like, do you really need to add this detail? Will it make it better? Will it add something? Or is it just you trying to kind of over perfect something that's not needed? So it's like, yeah, I can go maybe use that tool as well, just to kind of like thinking through, will it add something to it? Or is it already good enough the way it is? And then if it's good enough the way it is, just leave it. And then later you can always come back and decide, maybe I want to try what will happen if I do this and that, but in another painting. Okay, let me apply. So now I need to make sure that I don't have a transparent ground here. Otherwise I'll have, yeah, ghost something. Definitely need more pigment, otherwise I will see the trees through. You can also of course start with the ground first and then paint the trees. I just felt like it made more sense to do it this way, because then I can decide where I want, and then I don't have to worry about this ground being reactivated or something. I don't think it needs to be higher than that. Can also make it more uneven. So you don't need to always make everything even, like perfectly even. Like when you have more bumpiness, more wiggly lines, it will make it automatically more like more natural, more interesting. Because it's almost like counterintuitive. Like you want some symmetry, you want even lines to make it better, but actually you make it look more like you try too hard, and also it doesn't look as realistic or interesting as it could be. So if you have wobbly lines, more uneven lines, some unevenness, it just makes it more lively and more interesting. But what we can still do, we need to wait until this dries and we can see how dark it actually is, because you can see now that this tree that I have here is slightly lighter than the ground. So maybe once it settles a little bit, we can either make those trees slightly darker or add more trees that are darker than what we already have. So he says, love the idea of walking away and coming back. Good advice. Yeah, like sometimes when I like I said, like in my Watercolor membership TL, we do live classes every month, and they're sometimes more difficult, some are more easier or easier, and also because we take the time to paint and walk ourselves through everything step by step. Sometimes it can last up to 3 hours, and after 3 hours of painting and like working on one piece can be it's fun, but at the same time sometimes you're not like you can't really, after 3 hours of focus, like you're really focused, like whenever you paint you don't realize how relaxed you are at the end, but also how exhausted you can be, because sometimes you feel like, well, I only painted, like how can I be exhausted? But you were so focused because your brain was just focused on one thing that it's just tired. So if you have 3 hours, you're just deciding to now give yourself feedback and deciding, should I do this and that? It's hard to do that because your brain is just so tired, and you also can't clearly see anymore. So no matter what's happening on the paper, just like don't even like go and you, is it good, bad, or not? It's just, okay, it's good enough, and then come back to it later with fresh eyes and fresh mind. But what you can do is, maybe I can also make this, no, I think I have also a very dark blue here that is even darker than what I have. So maybe if I can also, at this point you could use black if you want, but I don't have any black here. I'm just using a very, very dark blue, and I can add it here on the bottom. It's kind of like maybe some shadow type of version. On the very bottom. But I still see some paints, some trees shining through. So again, like if you have troubles making your colors dark, definitely paint the ground first. Or if you paint the ground later, make sure that your mix is very, very dark. Otherwise you'll have trees ghosting from behind the hill, and this will look weird. And then Rika says, I noticed that the branches in the background are more transparent, less paint, and the ones that are in the midground are mid-transparent, and the ones in the foreground less transparent, more paint. Yeah, this is how you create depth in your painting. Yeah, like you don't, like with the beauty of watercolor, it's not paint by numbers where you fill in like lines and like sections. It's really about shapes, overlapping shapes, light and dark, and adjusting it as to fit what you're going for. So that's why using, like, knowing how watercolor works is so essential, because then you know exactly, this is how I make it darker and lighter, this is what I achieve when I do this and that, and this is how I control my watercolor paint and water and things like that. And you have like kind of like, yeah, you use the formula of watercolor, but you actually understand what you're doing. It's not like with math where you have a book. Sometimes in the school we had like a formula book, like later in the higher classes, but it's just like with the formula book, you just pull out the formula and kind of put numbers in and then hope for the best. But unless you understand what you're actually doing there, it's just like hoping for the best. So that's why in watercolor mixing, like I always say, you want to understand how watercolor, like how to mix your colors. You don't need charts and like look left and right and how the color will look in the end and memorize that, but more like, okay, this is, of course I get this color because if I mix this color with that color, I get this result. Because not because you learn it from a formula, but you know what's happening in the process of mixing those colors. All right, so this dries, and like I said, we could technically add some darker trees, which I could like add maybe as this is still dry, so I can use some very dark blue green mix, so a little bit more water, and maybe add it, this one looks like it wants to be a little bit darker, or maybe this one. I don't like how patchy this tree is on the right, so I think I'll make this darker because it's very reflective here, so I don't see what. Maybe I can put it like this way. So like that, and the bottom part is slightly whiter. Maybe this one. Yeah, so I tried to make the trees that are further in the distance a little more, like more narrow, and the ones that are close are slightly wider. But of course, you can also, like, if it makes sense, you can also, of course, add darker trees, thinner trees in the foreground as well. This one as well, like, so trees that are slightly darker than the rest. More water. Sometimes if it's like a very dark paint, like shade, it's very pasty. Something like that, I think that's good enough. Yeah, you can, this will be, it's recorded, so you can then start from the very beginning. And yeah, we could also, but this needs to be dry first. What you can do is, what I always like when I paint like skies, or like in the picture that I have on the screen from the paint to paper challenge, I like to add stars as well. But for that, we can use gouache, white gouache, or if you have other, you don't necessarily use acrylic. Gouache is just, it doesn't, you can reactivate that. Acrylic usually you can't. So I'll add a little bit of white gouache. So this is Horadam gouache, titanium white. Just a little bit. And then I add a little bit of water to that. And I need a smaller brush, so maybe this, yeah, maybe the number 6. A bit of water. Maybe start with a smaller one, so because the smaller the brush, the smaller the dots will be. So I'll grab a liner brush, I think. This one maybe. Yeah, this is actually live. We're painting live, so. And this is recorded. I mean, this is on YouTube, so it's recorded. So I'll drop some stars here. And this is, if the trees are still drying, then you have, we'll have it on top of your paint, but it's a magical forest, so you don't need to follow all the rules of this planet. So you need to cover up, because I added this area is still drying, so add some bigger ones, more like place them on top. You can also add use the end of your brush and use it as a dotting tool, so you have more rounder dots. But again, even like with stars like that, you don't want to have even patterns evenly spaced out, so always like try to break apart any evenness. So that's why splattering is so great, because with splattering you don't have much control where the splatter will land unless you cover up certain areas. This is this is actually cerulean blue hue and phthalo green. Yeah, this is like, I mean, if someone watches it later, then it will be a recording, but now I'm live. Okay, so I think that's good enough. Like I said, you can make it, you can put maybe some silhouette of something like an animal, a person, something, depending on what you want to paint. This is just like an idea, and you can make it like as complicated or as simple as you want. You can, like I can see, for example, like I said, this part looks a little wider than this one on the bottom. You can see this look a little bit weird, so I might need to actually adjust that, because this is where sometimes you paint and then you don't notice half of the stuff that's happening. So sometimes you need to come back and oh wait a second, I forgot this part. Oh, was a little this and that. So maybe I can adjust this a little bit. And even like even if I don't adjust that, it's still fine. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. But I think it will be good to adjust this one. Just make it wider on the bottom so it actually makes sense from the thickness. So it's a little better. Maybe this part could be slightly thicker. Yeah, I think it's good enough. Like, you don't need to over perfect anything. Okay, I will remove the tape because everything is pretty dry around. Okay, this is how it looks, and I actually like hope it still works. Am I still here? I really like how it turned out. I like how the light, like the pattern of the background, like it looks like light actually shining through the forest almost. So it's not just an even wash. It's not also not very just like randomly like wet into wet like texture, but it actually we have some as if it's light shining through the forest. I'm still like, says something was looks like I'm still here, so it's good. I said everything crashed on my side, and I was like, am I still? Just continue talking. What I'm still here. No, this the paper I use here is Irish watercolor paper, cold pressed. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, like you can. This was if you want to be more like a light, I think I mean, it looks like light shining through, but also I think would make it more diagonal, because this is more like, it looks more like a curved line. So but I was kind of going for northern light, but also sky. This is more like just sky, not with the northern light effect. But now it looks like actually like light shining through the forest, so almost like the moon shining through the forest from the top somewhere. So yeah, this is where when you paint and you finish the painting, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece where everything's perfectly worked according to your plan. It could be also completely different, and then from there you get ideas for your next painting. Like the ideas, I think one of the mistakes people are making is that they wait for an idea to paint, or they like they look too much for a perfect reference image, or they wait for inspiration for something to paint. But you can just paint, and even blobs, and in the blobs and in the colors and the patterns, you can get like ideas. Oh, maybe I couldn't paint a forest with like really like a moon. We could totally like paint something where the moon is now shining somewhere, and then very small, like at the, like, and then the light's coming, and maybe instead of these trees, you could make them like paint less trees, but have something in the forest standing that looks into the moon, like something like totally, like you get inspiration from your own painting, from anything that maybe have worked or maybe something that didn't work. And instead of waiting for like perfect reference, inspiration and stuff like that, you just get excited in the process. Like there's this quote, what was it again? One of the things I'm always like write as my mantra is like progress over perfection. And the other one is clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So you can think all the way, like overthink, think. But once you start painting, start doing stuff, you haven't thought about this and that. This didn't work out. This, and then this came in, and you didn't know about that. So you can't really predict everything, and you can't think your way out of something. Sometimes you just need to do and put one foot in front of the other, and you get see more and more and more, and then you get more and more clarity. So this is like with painting as well. Like finish your painting and get excited about just the painting process and see where it leads you, and just have fun in the process and focusing on the process, not the actual final result. And I always say, like, who do you get to become in the process? Oftentimes we focus so much on the outcome, or the this is in the way, or I can't do this because of this or that, like this is circumstance this, circumstance that. But what if you could overcome that? What if you could just focus on becoming the person who overcomes this, who learns something along the way, even any challenge, who do you get to become at the end of overcoming that? And even like when you paint, like you could start a painting or start learning watercolor painting and find yourself being frustrated or impatient. So maybe you could use it as an opportunity to become a more patient person, more someone who's more present and more like slows down, like, because it forces you to slow down a little bit. You can't really rush it because you have drying stages, you have all the things that you need to pay attention to, so you can't really rush. So maybe this could be a opportunity to become a little bit more patient. That's a really good tip for how little the paint bled under. Yeah, like this is, maybe I didn't press down hard enough here in this space. So Kanya says, it's so lovely to see you again. You got me into painting back in 2010 when I was a kid. I hope you're doing great. Lovely painting. Thank you. Hope you're also doing great. I love this whole setup. The 2 cameras, the music. Please make your camera a little close so we can see you more. Well, I actually wanted to remove it as we paint so you're not distracted by me, but yeah, like I really hope you enjoyed the painting process, and just like maybe you got to paint as well, maybe you just watched. But I also hope you join me inside the Paint to Paper challenge. I know some of you that are here are already joined, or they are already yeah, or some members from my watercolor membership are here who joined through the challenge later. So if you ever wanted to learn watercolor painting, or you wanted to learn how to paint your own watercolor paintings from scratch and be confident and proud of what you create, then Paint to Paper Challenge is the first step, because there's so many people who, I think at this point we had over 20,000 people go through this challenge. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know, so it can always, like, even if you know some of the basics, even if you think, I think I got this, you don't know like what you don't know. Maybe there's something, even one detail, one aspect, one different view of something can change everything. So even if you just like join just to paint the Northern Light, like it's already worth that, because you get so many new ways how you can use watercolor to your advantage. Yeah, thanks Perenia Gypsy as well for hanging out. Like, again, make sure to join me inside the Paint to Paper Challenge, starting in February 17th, and you'll have access for like longer than that, but the actual challenge, the 5-day challenge, happens February 17th. This is the first day, over 5 days. This is the link, makoccino.com/P2P. And yeah, when you go on this website, you'll also see more details on what's happening, what we're covering each day. We also have giveaways. We also have a private community where you can share your art. I'm there, I'm checking in, and you're not doing this alone, because I know sometimes it's so easy to just purchase a course or have a library of YouTube videos that you can watch later. But this is a great opportunity to make the time to focus on some of the most important aspects of watercolor painting. We can't cover everything. I have a whole in-depth course on watercolor painting, but this is kind of like the essence of what makes a huge difference already. And you can just already apply that and you'll see a huge difference, and also get more inspiration for your own paintings, or even just be surprised at what you can create with I'm just using one brush, 2 colors, and that's it. Like, I don't think there's there's some white gouache involved, but that's all. Like, nothing super crazy or anything like that. Yeah, let me know if you have any other questions about the challenge, and if anything else I can help you with. But other than that, we're done with this painting. So this is again our painting, and you can use any different color. You can use different compositions, make it more complex, simplify it, make it more elaborate, more details, less details, and just have fun. Like in the Paint to Paper Challenge, we're going to paint this Northern Light project, and like I said, it will look different. Like, I have different versions, and then I actually don't have the original ones because I gifted them away. But yeah, there are like so many ways how you can make it that. But the most important thing is, like, whenever I say, it's like, I want you to know the why behind the techniques. I want you to know the whys behind the steps and why you're doing it. Not just like kind of follow and hope for the best, but actually knowing, why am I doing this? Why do I need to do this? Because when I started watercolor painting, no one was explaining that. It feels like they just like, okay, just grab this color and this color, and then we have this color, and then you apply this for the shadow, and then you add this color. And I'm like, but why do you choose this color? Why do you do it this way? Why do you choose, like, because no one teaches that. It's like they're just follow along kind of thing. But how are you supposed to paint your own paintings if you don't know how to make your own decisions like that? Knowing that I need to use this color, that I need to use this sequence of steps, and this is how you do this and that, and what. Yeah, so that's why the challenge is not about here 10 million different paintings that you can follow and paint. There's only one, but you get so many different techniques and skills and understanding of watercolor painting, so you can actually implement that in your own painting. How to tweak things, how to adjust things, and create your paintings step by step. This project in the picture here only takes you like removing my talking, maybe like 20 minutes. And it's not even like rushed. It's very simple process, but you can see how effective it can be. And yeah, I'm just so super excited, and I hope I see you there. It's only $10, and we have a community, we have daily lessons and some bonus lessons that are not advertised. And yeah, I'm super excited about. Will we see more of you on YouTube? I actually posted recently like 2 videos or something, but the issue with YouTube is like I sometimes posted like every week, and then someone was like, I thought you stopped posting because I didn't see my videos. And I was like, why? I'm like, for years I've been posting every week. So sometimes you need to check yourself if I posted something, but I did post last week and the week before. And also if you want to learn more in depth with me and get feedback and yeah, have a community around the painting and yeah, just don't do it alone. I highly encourage you to join the challenge, and also have my watercolor membership Teal, and this is where the magic happens, because YouTube, you can't compare that. I mean, if you already like this session, then you should be inside Teal, because this is where it's even more magical. So, and you do it also over Zoom, so it's even more casual and interactive, and I can give you feedback as we paint together as well, and you can share your art as well. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining me today. It was really fun. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope I'll see you in the challenge happening on February 17th. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or maybe I will do another video where I'm just answering questions about the challenge or anything like that. But yeah, so he says this was so much fun and very informative. Thank you. Great. Like it was really fun painting with you all and just sharing my process. And I hope you got inspired to put paint to paper. And if you want to really learn how to create your own watercolor paintings with more confidence and ease, then I hope I'll see you inside the challenge very, very soon. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for being here and painting with me. Also, by the way, this is the what's the word, jacket I was wearing when I went to Beyonce. And Beyonce's coming again. Just need not to Germany this time around, or maybe later, I don't know, but I'm ready. And also this gives me, it just sparks so much joy, just how the light comes and shines. You need to have stuff like that in your home that you can just look at, and it just sparks joy just through the existence of that. So thanks everyone again for hanging out with me and painting, and I'll see you very, very soon. Also hope to see you in the challenge as well. Take care.